always feel like somebody's watching me, and I have no privacy.
Good evening, ghosts and ghouls. It's the one, the only JT Ripper, and I'm here with
Todd of Thunder.
and you're listening to a horrible podcast. But today, we're going to be ranking the Texas Chainsaw Massacre movies from worst to best.
Yes, indeed. This is one of those franchises that we hold near and dear to our hearts, but not every movie.
Not really. Not so much. Yeah, there's a couple. It's not the best out of the series. It's one of the series that seems to be getting remade way more than it should.
That and the fact that when this is a hit, it's a hit, but when it's a miss, it's a big fucking miss.
Oh yeah, it's like fucking left field.
Well, there's 9 of these bad boys. I guess we'll jump right into it.
Go ahead.
Number 9, no surprise.
Mm-hmm.
Texas Chainsaw Massacre: The Next Generation, 1995. Wow. This movie is a big old fucking pile of fucking shit. This movie was horrible as a Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie.
Yes. It's my number 9 too.
The only good thing, there's 2 good things about this film. Renee Zellweger, who does a really good job as the leading girl, and Matthew McConaughey.
Moo! Ooh, 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 ooh.
He is fucking brilliant.
Yeah, he is. He's the best part of this movie.
Yes, he really is. And just to give you a little bit of backstory to this film was filmed in 1994 with a 1995 release. Okay? Well, in 1994, Renee Zellweger and Matthew McConaughey were not big Hollywood stars like they became. So what ended up happening is after they made this film, they got huge roles. Like Matthew McConaughey went on to play in A Time to Kill with Samuel L. Jackson, which is a great fucking movie.
Brilliant.
Renee Zellweger, she got a role in the movie Jerry Maguire with Tom Cruise, which was a huge hit.
Classic.
So, what the filmmakers of this film did is, while this film was kind of in production, about to be released, Matthew and Renee blew up. So, they held off on releasing this film, and they were going to piggyback off of
Their fame.
Yeah. So, this film actually wasn't released to the general public until like 2 years later in 1997. And that's because there was a lot of like suing going on, especially the team behind Matthew McConaughey, who recognized what they were doing, which was exploiting
Matthew McConaughey.
The fame of Matthew McConaughey.
Yeah. Which
So,
isn't right.
It's not right. And the director of this film was kind of a prick. He, even though he worked on the very first Chainsaw with Tobe Hooper back in '74.
Yeah.
I forgot actually what he did, but he talked shit about that movie, said it was a poor movie, and all of the sequels that came afterwards sucked ass, and he was going to make the true blue Texas Chainsaw Massacre sequel. And he fucking gave us the most horrible fucking Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie when it comes to actually Leatherface and what we are expecting.
Do you think he may have like made Leatherface a bitch in this movie as a big fuck you to like Tobe Hooper and stuff?
He might have. I'm not sure.
I don't know. That idea just kind of like popped in my head.
I'm
like,
not sure if he was like just trying to get people excited to watch his film, or if he actually believed the bullshit that was coming out of his mouth.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It ruins the image of Leatherface in this movie. Like,
Yeah.
he is a fucking bitch in this movie.
Again, if this movie was just kind of like about Matthew McConaughey being absolutely insane and like the family living out in the woods and shit like that,
Yeah.
I think that this might have been like kind of a cult classic. But since they added Leatherface and called it a chainsaw movie, no, it doesn't work for me. It doesn't work for me, brother.
It doesn't work for me, dog. It's going to be a hard pass.
Yeah, it's once you see Matthew McConaughey's performance in this, that is the only reason to revisit this.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's definitely at the bottom of our list.
Yeah.
Coming in at number 8 from 2017 is Leatherface.
That's exactly what I got for number 8.
I thought it was a cool concept.
It was interesting.
It was interesting.
I think it's a little forgettable.
It is forgettable, and it is one of those films where they try to portray Leatherface as not somebody that was just born fucked up, but made fucked up, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like, it was, they try to do like this whole like, you know, well, this is the reason why he became Leatherface, but before that he was very normal.
He was a good kid.
Yeah, I mean, it's not a bad movie. It's just
Unnecessary.
it was unnecessary. It didn't work.
Yeah.
Stephen Dwarf was great in this movie as the sheriff, though. But like some horror movies, they tend to make somebody else the real villain and kind of sympathize what the main villain should be. And that's what they did in this film. Because Stephen Dwarf was the main villain in this.
Yeah. It was unnecessary. Like, all of it was just unnecessary. He didn't, like, need a full backstory. Like, you don't need to make him a human. You don't need to disfigure him. There was nothing wrong with him being born disfigured in a fucked up family out in the fucking woods. That's all you need from it. You don't need to add a human nature to him to make him sympathetic. I mean, Leatherface doesn't need sympathy. He wears people's fucking faces.
Right.
How are you supposed to be sympathetic for a guy that just cut off this other guy's face and is wearing it and dancing in the fading sun?
Yeah. So my overall thoughts on it is it's a decent watch, but
yeah, I mean, it's okay.
But it's not an every.
It didn't insult me as a Texas Chainsaw Massacre fan.
Yeah,
like
it was.
Next Generation did.
The best word is, I think, unnecessary.
Yeah.
Coming in at number 7 is on my list is Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3: Leatherface from 1990.
Okay.
This was a good movie. It was a good third movie. Ken Foray plays in it, which is great. There were some very memorable characters in the movie. Overall, it's one of the darkest and, like, I guess you would say mean-spirited, if that's even a good word to use for a horror film. I mean, they're all supposed to be horrifying, but you could tell the difference between like a movie with zero fun in it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean it's a bad movie. It was good. Like, this Leatherface was more of a mean son of a bitch rather than the way he had been portrayed in the previous 2 films.
Right.
You know, in the previous 2 films, the cook and the hitchhiker and everybody else kind of, you know, could control him, and he was like kind of scared of them a little bit. But in this film, he wasn't scared of shit. I remember, like, he had, like, what was it, a Walkman?
Mm-hmm.
And he was listening to it, and one of the characters, like, jerked it off his head and threw it in the fire, and he made the guy, like, reach in there with his hand to get it out. He was, it was like one of these "don't fuck with me" Leatherfaces.
Yeah.
Kind of like, he reminded me of like one of those like mean old dogs where they don't want to play at all. It ain't no fetching. It's like, just leave me the fuck alone.
Right. That's not quite on my list. I actually have, I guess it would be technically Texas Chainsaw 3D. Yeah, okay. They got rid of the massacre for the title. I liked it. It was cool. I really didn't like the way Leatherface looked in this movie. The guy that did Leatherface in the movie did okay. I mean, it tried to go back to more of that slasher type vibe, your modern day. And like every victim of horror movies during the early 2000s, mid 2000s, they always have to throw in a rapper. Who did they put? Trey Songz? Is that?
Yeah.
He was okay. I thought the acting was kind of pretty fucking bad in this movie, to be honest with you. It's kind of forgettable also. That's the problem with like Texas Chainsaw Massacre, is it's either legendary or fucking forgettable. I mean, I thought it was pretty fun. I like Bill Moseley. I like this. I like the start of the movie the best, honestly. With Bill Moseley as the cook in it and stuff like that, and the shootout and all that stuff. Like, if it would have stayed like that throughout the movie, it'd have been way higher on my list.
Yeah, well, coming in at number 6 is Chainsaw 3D on my list.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree with everything you said. There is some shots of brilliance in this film, but there is definitely it's not consistent.
No.
Like, you'll get like a really brilliant shot, and then the next it's like typical bullshit Hollywood.
Yeah. It didn't know what it wanted to be.
Yeah. And yeah, some of the acting in this was completely horrible. The lead actress, I thought, was probably the best actor in the film.
I'd agree with that.
I thought the guy that did play Leatherface played the role exactly the way that it was written and the way that the higher-ups wanted it to be, so I don't fault him.
Yeah.
But again, Leatherface was not the main villain in this film.
Right, yeah.
It was the asshole sheriff in town and his asshole fucking son, who happened to be a cop as well. They were the true, like, bad guys in this film, and they tried to portray Leatherface as a sympathetic figure. And, it was kind of goofy, to be honest with you, because, there was a bloodline between the main character and Leatherface in this film.
Yeah.
However, she kind of accepts him being, a part of this bloodline, even after he's killed all of her fucking friends.
Yeah.
Which is fucking stupid.
Didn't she say, like, get him, Bubba, or some shit like that?
She said, she threw him the chainsaw and said, do your thing, cuz.
Oh, God, yeah. Oh.
Which was the cringiest fucking line I ever heard.
Fuck.
Yeah, like I said, it's not a bad movie, but it has a lot of fucking down points that you can just pick apart.
Right. Well, I'll jump into my number 6. It's actually Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2022, straight to Netflix. I don't know why people shit on this movie, to be honest with you. I thought it was fantastic, and it's one of the few, actually it's the only fucking Texas movie that has a massacre in it. Like, the fucking bus scene where he fucking slaughters everybody. This is probably the most goriest Texas that I can think of.
Yeah, it's pretty gory.
I thought it had a cool story. I liked the cinematography in it. It had a good vibe. Leatherface felt like Leatherface. He felt like a fucking ruthless killer. They didn't portray him as a bitch. I don't understand the hate for it. But I dig it. I think it's actually a pretty fucking solid Texas movie.
Yeah, well, my number 5 is Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2022 from Netflix. Yeah, again, everything you said, I agree. I really enjoyed this film. I thought it was great, paying homage to the original film.
I didn't think it was insulting at all.
No, I think that there are actors in this movie playing a character that was meant to get under your skin, but you had a payoff because they all got fucking killed.
Yes. Like, you thought they were going to get away, and then boom,
right.
fucking...
And again, this is 2022, so it came out earlier this year.
Yeah.
So there are these kind of progressive, woke kind of characters in this that are fucking insufferable, and it was so satisfying seeing them fucking get killed.
Yeah.
Sorry, not sorry.
Yeah. I actually think that it was purposeful.
Yeah.
For them to be like so insufferable that you wanted to see them die. See, that's how you root for Leatherface. You give characters, you give people characters to hate so bad that when they get fucking decapitated, you fucking cheer.
Yeah.
That's how you go for the rooting for Leatherface. But I still wasn't rooting for him. But they did a good job.
Yeah, I thought it was really good, and you know, out of 9 films, it falls at number 5 on my list. So, you know, obviously, I think high of it.
Right. Well, I'll jump into my number 5. It's actually Texas Chainsaw Massacre: Leatherface, number 3, the 1990. I think this one's a lot better for me personally. I like how dark it is. Like you said, Leatherface is just a fucking ruthless murderer in this. And I think it's how it should be. He's, like you said, that old dog you don't fuck with. Yeah. And then you got Ken Foray in it, which is fucking awesome. He's such a great actor. It was a great story. Pretty much everything you said I agree with.
Here's an interesting fact. Ken Foray actually dies in this movie. The swamp scene where he's fighting Leatherface, the fucking chainsaw cuts him in the fucking head. He's dead.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
But when they done the test for this film, people were bitching. They're like, where is he at? He's the best character in this movie. Mm-hmm. So they had him coming back at the end in the truck.
Really?
Yeah, go back and watch the film. He fucking dies. He gets a fucking chainsaw in the head. But they make it like to where it's kind of dark. So
yeah.
So maybe like when you see him, he just has like a little cut on his head. And it's so fucking hilarious.
Oh my god, I didn't never notice that until you just pointed that out.
Yeah.
That's fucking hilarious. But still, regardless, it's a great fucking movie.
Yeah. And I always thought it was funny, like how some characters, like in horror films, they get like knocked out that you think are dead, and then they come back at the end. Like, how do you get knocked out with a chainsaw to the head? Like, do you just fucking pass out just because you're scared shitless? And if you pass out in a fucking swamp,
you playing possum?
Wouldn't you fucking drown yourself?
Yeah.
Either way, I'm glad that they kind of put that in there.
That is fucking
kind of
awesome,
makes me laugh.
I think our next 4 are probably going to be in the same order.
We'll see.
We'll see.
What's
your number 4, sir?
My number 4 is Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2, 1986.
Holy shit, it's not.
Yep. Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2. This is a film that I like. I don't really hear people talk shit about it, but when I do, on a rare occasion, this is one of those films that I'll stick up for. This falls into the Jason Takes Manhattan category. Some people say, it sucks because it's totally different than the first film, and that's the reason why I like it, is because it was totally different. This has a comedic tone to it, definitely.
Yeah.
But Tobe Hooper meant for it to be that way. Okay?
Yeah, because he knew he couldn't make the same movie twice.
He could not make the same movie twice because this was a big production. And the reason why the first Chainsaw looks the way it does, and we'll get to that later, is because it didn't have a big budget. This film, he had a big budget. The heartaches and the shit that he went through on the first film, he didn't have to go through on this film. And as a filmmaker, you don't really want to. So he made a movie that was fucking fun, rewatchable, great characters. Tom Savini.
Savini Weenie.
Done the special effects makeup on it. Caroline Williams was great as Stretch in this.
Mm-hmm. Dennis fucking Mosley.
Bill Mosley was great. Dennis Hopper in this movie as Franklin's like uncle seeking revenge. He was great in this film.
Come to do the Lord's work.
Yeah, I mean, this was a fun fucking ride. And one of the most underrated things about this film is the score. The score to it, like if you can't remember anything to this movie, the score will be memorable to it. Right. Like it's almost perfect for every scene. They have like perfect like sound bites for every single scene in this film.
Yes. That is not my number 4, believe it or not. It's actually a little bit higher on my list. My number 4 is Texas Chainsaw Massacre: The Beginning. This would be the sequel to the remake in 2003. Texas Chainsaw Massacre: The Beginning is such a great movie. I'm glad I got to see this in theaters. This is how you do a backstory to Leatherface. He was awesome. Like, what's the guy that played Leatherface in the beginning?
It was Andrew Bynarski.
He also played Leatherface in the remake. He's my favorite Leatherface. Like, I know it might sound like blasphemy, but I fucking love him as Leatherface. Not taking anything from Gunnar Hansen. It's just he took what Gunnar did and made it a little bit better. It's a great backstory. It's fucking brutal. It's very dark. It's very gloomy. It's acted very well. Great score. And the fucking ending is perfect. Because everybody fucking dies. Everybody has to die. And they do. And that's what I loved about it.
Well, coming in at my number 3 is Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2003. The remake.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, this was one of those rare occasions where I still don't think it's better than the original, but it is a worthy fucking remake. And for the younger people that hadn't watched the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre, I thought this was a great film to start them off with the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Like they can watch this film and claim that, okay, this is my Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie. Mm-hmm. And I would totally be fine with that. Because it's a fucking brutal movie. Jessica Biel is great in it. All of the cast members are great in this. Ari Ermi as the sheriff is great in this.
Mm-hmm. He's kind of the new cook.
Yeah, and everybody was great in this. It's dark, it's scary, it's brutal, it's gory. It's what a modern day Texas Chainsaw Massacre should have been. I don't think anybody could have made a better Chainsaw remake. Like that, it was damn near perfect,
right?
In my opinion. But it falls at number 3.
That's your number 3?
Yeah.
That's my number 3, actually. I fucking love this remake. This remake is, it's almost number one. You know, I mean, obviously, you know, we said The Hills Have Eyes was number one, but if The Hills Have Eyes wouldn't have been ever remade, this would be number one. There's one thing about this movie I say that it's a little bit better than the first one is that the actors and actresses in this movie, I think, their performance is just a little bit better. You get that emotion with the remake that you kind of, you know, it pulls at your heartstrings, like especially like when Jessica Biel's fiance gets killed, and you know they allude that, you know, he's never gonna propose, but he wound up having a wedding ring in his pocket. When he fucking strings him up like a deer, fucking falls out, and you're like, oh my god. And it's fucking great. The scores in it is fucking spectacular. It is a awesome remake. It's like only a notch like below the first one, honestly. Everything else you said, I agree with.
Well, my number 2 is Texas Chainsaw Massacre: The Beginning, which is a sequel to this. And for all the reasons why you said, that's why it's my number 2. I like the no survivors at the end. That's what sent me over the top, like with this movie. As much as I like the remake, The Beginning gave me more brutality to it. And the ending is what kind of puts it a notch above the remake, in my opinion. We went to the theaters and saw both of these films.
Yeah.
But I kind of like The Beginning a little bit. It's not as praised as much as the remake is, obviously.
Yeah, it's a crying shame.
But I think it's just as fucking good, and obviously I think it's a little bit better on my list because I have it a notch above. But yeah, I think highly of this movie. I put it at number 2. It's from 2006.
Nice. Well, my number 2 is number 2. Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2. I fucking love this movie. After, you know, hearing about like why he didn't try to, do another scary movie, try to go in a different route, it makes sense because you can never remake or redo the first one because of everything you said. But, you know, he introduces more characters. Chop Top by Bill Moseley is fucking iconic. Just a great story. Leatherface, he looked okay in this movie. It wasn't my favorite looking Leatherface, but as a sequel, I thought it's pretty damn awesome. I like the comedic value to it. It's a lot brighter too. A lot of people don't kind of point that out. Like the colors in the movie are like different. And
well, credit to Tom Savini for that.
Yeah, Savini winning for the win. But everything else you said about TCM2, I agree with. It's just I think it's higher on my list because it's just one of those movies that I can just pop in and rewatch over and over again.
It's definitely the most quotable out of this entire series.
Absolutely.
Well, no surprise. The number one, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, 1974. And, you know, you alluded to the remake, the characters having a little bit more emotion, being a little bit better acted or whatever.
Yeah.
I would kind of agree with you, but I would say that Texas Chainsaw Massacre 74, the overall tone of this film can't fucking be touched.
Right. Absolutely. No.
Like the overall like there's this film isn't even gory. It's not. It's somehow fucking one of the most brutal movies ever made, but yet not gory.
Yeah, like the only blood you remotely see is when Franklin is getting fucking gutted.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. But the overall tone of the movie makes it seem so goddamn frightening.
I think the reason why the tone is so dark is because they didn't, like, filming this movie was fucking miserable for these people. And you feel their fucking misery on screen.
Yeah.
Like, you can't fake that. That was 100% emotion. Because they had no fucking budget.
No, they didn't have a budget. And that's why the film looks gritty. It looks like a grindhouse film, basically.
Yeah, it does.
But the overall tone of this film is what makes it, in my opinion, one of the scariest movies of all time. I've talked on other shows about how I won't watch this film in the dark because it was the first film to really fuck me up as a kid and traumatize me as being... I still feel that way. I feel like it's the scariest movie I've ever seen. And it's because of that fucking tone. And like we said a little earlier, that's why Tobe Hooper knew that he couldn't recreate this with part 2. He knew he couldn't have that same tone. Even if he tried, he wouldn't have had that tone. Yeah. So he didn't even try, and that's why he went in a different direction. And I think it worked out very, very well for him.
Yes.
But this film, everything lines up in this film to me to be one of the most perfect horror films ever. I think on our list, or on my list anyway, this is like number 2 my favorite horror movie of all time.
Right. It's a 10. It's a 10. It's a fucking 10.
It is a 10. I love this film. Always loved it. And, you know, none of these films will ever have the overall tone and the overall feeling that this film gives me personally.
Right. I agree with that. Like, you're not going to get, like... No sequel is going to be as good as the original. Like, you know, Halloween 1 and 2, like, are, like, simultaneously, like, you can play them back to back and they feel like the same movie. You can't do that with Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
No.
And you couldn't.
There's a... Like, to me, if this was a race, and all 9 of these movies was in a race, TCM 74 would have lapped all these movies twice by now.
And I think that's the problem with the Texas Chainsaw Massacre franchise, is that they struggle with, is that the first one's so goddamn good, it's just hard to do anything with it.
Yeah. And as, you know, and as fans, we want more sequels, but we don't just want more sequels. We want quality films. And I think that the last film that they came out with, the 2022 movie on Netflix, I think, in my opinion, is a step in the right direction.
You took the words right out of my mouth. I was going to say a step in the right direction.
Like, if I could get Texas Chainsaw Massacre 74, Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2, the remake and the beginning, and you can, like, erase all the other ones, I would be fine with that. And then you give me the 2022 that we came out with.
Yeah.
And say, hey, this is a new direction we're going in. I'd be fine with that. I'd be fine giving up Chainsaw 3, Chainsaw 3D, Leatherface, and the next generation. You can, like, they would. I wouldn't be sad if none of them ever existed. But, like, you know, just the remake and the beginning and the first 2 films, and, you know, give me this 2022 and say, okay, we're going to do, like, kind of a Halloween thing and do, like, a trilogy and all this shit. I'd be perfectly fine with that.
I totally agree with that. I'm hoping that eventually we get the treatment that they did for Halloween, where they're just going to fucking leap over all of them and just jump straight to 74. Or I wouldn't be too mad if they play off a 2, just because in hopes to get Chop Top back on screen.
That would be interesting.
I think that would be pretty fucking dope. But
yeah, Texas Chainsaw Massacre is not going away anytime soon because we got the video game coming out too, so that's going to keep its name out there.
Yeah, so I'm sure that they'll be trying to come up with something for Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Hell, you never know. They might give it the series treatment like they're giving everything else.
Yeah, well, this has been a fun ranking.
Yeah, I enjoy this. I thought ours would be somewhat the same, not too far off, but I enjoyed it. It's been real, and it's been fun. And this one was actually real fun. I'm JT Ripper.
And I'm Todd of Thunder saying toodaloo.
And I've come to do the Lord's work.